Until I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was disgusted with what I saw. So I said, you gotta make a change, man.
It's all about fun, laugh, and get through life. That's what it is.
I find you have everything to gain with Frank, and without him, everything to lose.
Said I'm gonna lay you down, just like the bridge over troubled water.
Hi, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live. I'm Shannon, and I want to welcome my co-host, Dr. Vanessa DeDanzing. Hi, Vanessa. How are you?
Welcome.
How's everything?
Good.
I'm excited tonight. I'm finally getting to talk to my husband. Yes, I'm so excited. New York State Senator Jabari Brisport. I'm so excited to have him on the show tonight. So let's get him on so we can get to talking to him. So let's welcome him to the show. Hello, Senator Jabari. How are you?
Good evening. How are you, Shannon?
I'm so glad to have you on. I've been waiting so long to talk to you.
Excited to be here.
Right. So tonight we're going to talk about the man, the teacher, and the leader. So we're just going to start off just briefly. Who is Senator Jabari? What is it that you are that we don't know about, that we should know about?
State Senator Jabari is, Caribbean background. My family is from Guyana, so shout out to any Caribbean love in the audience or anyone who's watching. I hail from Prospect Heights. My family's been for about 3 generations, and I am a public school teacher, which I'll talk about more. But you know what? I grew up in a fighting household. I grew up in a union household. My dad was a sheet metal worker. My mom is a member of CWA. She actually works with the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. She's an office manager. But like social justice was always in our household. I actually cut my teeth harassing the state Senate when I was about 11 years ago over the fight for same-sex marriage. I'm openly gay. I'll actually be the first openly gay person of color ever elected to the state legislature. So it's a historic move for LGBTQ rights in the queer community. But I actually cut my teeth harassing state senators to vote yes on it. And I remember losing that battle in 2009, but doubling down the movement and winning and pushing that fight forward in 2011. And I got swept up in Black Lives Matter movement in the early 2010s. Started organizing rallies, marches, petitions, organizing against police violence. Started shifting out of street activism into electoral politics with the 2016 presidential campaign. I started, I was a big Bernie Sanders fan, and I started thinking, if I could elect somebody that I agreed with a lot, I would have to protest in the street a lot less. Ended up running for office in 2017, lost that race for city council. So a lot of the issues in the district were not, still not being addressed that I wanted to address. Ran for Senate this year, and I will be the incoming state senator.
All right, now.
I have to say this is awesome. So that goes into Vanessa, the teacher to the Senate.
Exactly. It goes to show you anything is possible. And I know your students are proud of you. What do they say about you making this move?
You know what? It's funny because we took civics out of the curriculum, so they don't know if I'm congressman now or like a Senate for all New York or like the mayor, and they don't know where it is. They have to go down the men. Anyway, but they're excited about it. One of the most heartwarming moments I had during the campaign was I was teaching virtually, and in the chat box, some kids were posting answers to the problem. One kid was like, "Mr. Brisport, my family got your letter in the mail for Senate," and it really touched me. I was like, "That's really beautiful that I get to I'm my student state senator now."
Did they know ahead of time that you was running?
Yeah, no, they knew. Because we had a lot of great press during the campaign, so all my students knew.
Right.
I didn't tell them.
That just goes to show you anything is possible. Here you are in the classroom, but you still get involved in community work, and then just decide that you decide you want to make a change, and you just run for the position. And you are in because sometimes they think, because people have been in that position for so long that they just going to automatically stay there. And this is just an example. And it's not only with you, a lot of incumbents is out. They were out. And new people, I would say young blood is in. And I mean, I think that's exciting in a way because we need new mindsets, new changes, bright ideas and things like that, you know. And so, you know, we just congratulate you again from being a teacher with students, and now you getting ready to go to fight for our community and stuff. So this brings us to the leader, which is the most important part of this show tonight. As a leader, once you get sworn in and you get in that seat and you ready to go, what is your top priority? You know, what is the first thing you're going to be fighting for?
I think it's really, you know, there's a few, which I know you want to just hear one. But if I had to just limit myself to like two, I would say it's really important to me to stem the flow of evictions that are happening in like this district, because it is a rapidly gentrifying district. And, you know, when you have, you know, we know who the majority of people who are getting evicted are in this district. And it's important for me to ensure that, you know, people that are from here can stay here. So there's that. But I also think the New York Health Act, you know, I've been a champion of that for years. And I really feel that in the moment, the political moment we're in right now, we're in the midst of a pandemic. I don't see how anyone could be opposed to having, you know, universal health care for every single New Yorker in the midst of all this.
Mm-hmm. So that, how do you plan to get them on board? Because, you know, when you get to Albany and Washington and those places like that, it sounds like it's easy. But when you get there, you got all these other people you got to deal with and convince them to come on board and support what you are doing. How you I would say, what are you thinking about how you're going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is like, I feel very lucky. You know, Shannon, you mentioned this, like there's a lot of upheaval to this legislative cycle or this election cycle. And I kind of see myself as a group of like an incoming freshman class that is very vocal, very active, but also kind of on the same page for a lot of these things, you know, ranging from the New York Health Act to taxing the rich for higher, you know, better resources for our communities, better criminal legal system reform, better housing, a lot of various things. And I think that by working in concert, we'll be able to get a lot done. I heard somebody refer once to Albany politics as like, you know, they have like a tea kettle strategy. So, you know, it wasn't so much about like, you know, convincing one by one, you know, other legislators, but making sure you have enough people on board and enough like community groups and activist groups on board so that you're making enough noise that the tea kettle is so loud that other legislators or the governor can't help but address it or acknowledge it. And you know, I'm ready to be part of the tea kettle for these like priorities and a few other things that I ran on.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure you have at least 50 or 60 priorities you have to get started on. But you know, it takes time to do all of that, different things that you want to get involved in. But how do you see individual, us as the constituents in the community, how do you see us getting involved, helping you to move the agenda? The people that live in the community. I mean, I know we go out and advocate for what we want, but what would you say on an individual basis that each person, not that everybody will do it, but the majority, if we convince them, will get out and do it? How do you see them helping you?
A variety of ways. I mean, there's a million ways to get involved. So one way is, for example, we have lobby days on Tuesdays. If you want to go up to Albany with, you know, a bunch of activists or, you know, groups that are advocacy groups that want to, you know, advocate or lobby for something, you can help build that pressure for it. But there's also like how you can stay organized in the district. So, you know, a big part of this campaign was also advocating for renters. You know, a lot of people in the district are renters. You know, we talked about, you know, good cause eviction and, you know, reforming how we're looking at evictions. So activating more renters, like how are we building more tenant associations and building local political power, you know, amongst like people that are living here but may not see themselves as part of a cohesive political unit. And then there's also like building the labor movement. Like, you know, I ran as an open socialist. You know, labor power is extremely important to that. And, you know, if you're in a workspace that you is non-unionized, you know, part of my office, I would love to help you unionize. So in part of the district. It's a big sprawling district, which I don't think I mentioned yet, but it's a huge district. It goes like Bedside, Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, the northern parts of Prospect Heights and Crown Heights. Yeah. It's Borum Hill. It's the slivers of Park Slope and downtown Brooklyn. It's Red Hook. It's a lot. And Sunset Park. It's a lot. But I bring that up because in a part of the district, in the Borum Hill, downtown Brooklyn area, one union battle I'm helping fight right now is at the Brooklyn Friends School. The teachers and staff administrators wanted to unionize and form a union to advocate for better workplace safety conditions. And, day one, I was like, oh my God, of course I'm on board. Yes, you're educators. Yes, I'm in. It's labor. Amazing. That's my thing. And then, the school, the leader, I don't think she goes by a principal, but, the leadership of the school invoked like a Trump decision to try and distance or neuter that decision to unionize and not recognize the union. So it's union busting, and I'm working with them now to see how we can advocate for them as a union and ensure that they are represented in the school and that they can fight together. So I say that as one example of how I would love to help more people join a union in their workspace. And aside from that, there's always the traditional methods of joining your local community board, getting more involved in your block association if you have one. Start one if you don't have one. How do we get people more organized and not feeling that they're isolated, because that is a big part of what we saw this year was this feeling of isolation. It's a general thing, I think, in the society of feeling like you are alone and your problems are your own, but really magnified by COVID-19, where people were they were confined in their house, and people could see that. We heard that when we were making phone calls. So getting people more out in the community and interacting with each other, or if COVID concerns, getting people to interact with each other in some capacity.
Okay.
Oh, it's interesting. I know it's limited time of what we can talk about for the agenda, but I'll wait till we come back.
Well, hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Why aren't you voting?
When you vote, you can do something about everything. At voteforyourlife.com, it's never been faster or easier to make a plan to vote.
Time is running out, but you still have the chance to use your power.
Check your registration and make sure your address on file is correct.
Find your state's deadlines, learn about local candidates, and request a ballot.
You'll be able to see where candidates stand on issues you care about.
Order a ballot request form to be mailed to you with prepaid postage,
allowing you to vote early, easily, and safely.
Make a plan to vote early by finding your nearest ballot drop-offs, in-person polling place, or local mailbox.
And this is where you rise, this is where you shine, this is where you become the greatest of all time. History in the making.
Vote for your life.
Hi, we're back with our special guest, State Senator Jabari Brisport. Before we went to break, Vanessa, you had a question?
Yes, I know you have a huge agenda, and there's much needed work that needs to be done in the community. But one of the focus is the advocating against the evictions. What about the homeowners? That is it difficult to combat the two?
Yeah. The bill I'm advocating for is a bill from State Senator Julia Salazar called Good Cause Eviction. What that would basically do, it is what it sounds like. It's limiting evictions to a good cause, which would, in terms of legislation, means you can evict somebody for not paying their rent or for, damaging the property. But what it would do, so I think, in most small homeowners that may rent out a small bit, my parents fall in that category. They own a brownstone, they rent out the top floor. Most of them, they're not looking to evict somebody for reasons other than non-payment or break-in stuff, but it's really protecting people from more corporate landlords. Really the target is the ones that own 10, 20, 40, 500, 1,000 units, who are looking to, flip a property or evict tenants for retaliation because they, called the landlord out over HPD violations or, whatever nonsense reason that really is not really a good reason to evict somebody. So, that's the main reason, is bringing more protections to a lot of people that are not really protected in their homes right now.
what is okay? I understand. Look, I feel bad for both sides because I know as a landlord you need money to keep the building up and pay for repairs and all that kind of stuff. And then for the tenant, but I'm saying with the tenants with the people like who lost their jobs, right? So they don't have a job to pay the rent, which I can still understand, the landlord would say that's not my problem or whatever. But then I would always say too, like, okay, if you evict them and put them out, you still gonna have a hard time moving somebody else in because if they don't have a job, then how you gonna get someone to move in? Because you're not sure where they can pay the rent or not. Or they may move in and can't pay the rent, so you're in the same situation. So rather than trying to work out something with the tenant, where even if they paid you $100 a month or $150, whatever they can pay, I mean, since you've been working more closely with it and everything, what do you see with the landlords that they're not willing to work together with the tenant?
It's a lot of a case by case basis. It's funny that you talk about working something out because I know, I think about my mom and I think about her tenant reached out early back in March and was like, listen, I'm not working right now. Can we work something out? I think she's not paying the full amount, but she's my mom's got a backyard. I think the tenant is she started a garden in the backyard, and my mom is able to enjoy like a lot of the fresh fruits, veggies and spices and stuff that she's growing, which is nice. But no, it is, it becomes tricky. Some landlords, they don't have like that kind of personal relationship with their tenant where they can work something out. They might have an intermediary, or they might just have 2,000 units and their MO is that this person can't pay, they're out, and it's and that's like their policy and that's what they want to do. I do think it's good to have some more leeway. And if there is that relationship, that's that's good. And I think we do need some kind of leeway, especially in the midst of all this. And I saw the governor extend the eviction moratorium, through January recently. And, I know that's been tricky, especially for a lot of, small, homeowner landlords who need money to pay their property taxes. Right. We did a moratorium on mortgages, right? So like if you're worried about, I need the rent to pay my mortgage, so that worry was gone. But like the worry of property taxes is still very real. And I know some people in the Housing Justice for All Coalition who are like kind of the main ones pushing like the cancel rent campaign. You might have seen people I've seen like bedside crowds, they have like the banners outside there, whatever, it's saying Cuomo cancel the rent. They're advocating that, in addition to canceling rent, like having some kind of landlord hardship fund for smaller landlords, saying like, those that own like, people like my mom that own like a brownstone and rents off the top floor, like, having some kind of fund to ensure that they're able to pull through when they have tenants that have this financial hardship. And I think
they was working on that. Is that coming through? I heard something about that on the TV that they was working about getting some money to give to the landlord and to help pay their expenses because the tenant can't pay. Are they still working on that?
I'm really not sure. Well, I'm not sure if they're even going back to session until January to work on anything, because they have been holding some emergency sessions here and there, and like I think people thought they would hold another one, but I have not heard of anything that's coming up between now and just when session starts in January. They should. There were several different competing bills over like how we're addressing it and like who who's getting what. But it is something that's kind of I know it's pretty immediate. I think the statistic I saw was that we have over like $2 billion in unpaid rents during the crisis. Like tons of New Yorkers, and predominantly like the percentage of Black, and brown New Yorkers who've missed the rent payment since March is astronomically much higher than those that are white renters, and it's concerning because we keep on extending the eviction moratorium, extend, but like then you have this backlog of like unpaid rent, and I don't know who works a job where like I just got a job and this job gives me the money for like my past 7 months of rent. So like, I don't know. We need to find some system where we don't just evict like 1 million people once the moratorium lifts, because that's not going to work. And then simultaneously, like in terms of like the urgency of it, there is hardship right now, especially for landlords, and that's very immediate. But yeah, so sorry, I know that's a rambling answer. Yeah, it's a long story short. I don't know of any legislators coming back to session in the next few months to work on it further.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. Because sometimes you think about a moratorium, is it just protecting the tenants? And then you say, okay, with the landlord, I'm not sure if there's a limitation in terms of, does that moratorium is just guided to those homeowners that have multi-units, like 20, 30 units, and in the small landlords can still, do an eviction. So that was, interesting. So thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but it's still kind of sad both ways, because you still have to consider the landlord as well. Yes, the tenant. I favor the tenant more so, but then I also have to think about, well, because I'm a homeowner or something, a homeowner. So if I was renting out or whatever, I would be saying to myself too, like, okay, well, so how am I supposed to make my expenses then? But then, depending on what kind of person you are, where you would say, well, okay, let's work something out or whatever. But then if you give me the attitude that you ain't wanting to work out something and ain't trying now, I might have to turn the other side and say, well, look, I you got to go. You know what I'm saying?
But the funny thing, Lottie, individuals who did lose their job, they got a substantial amount of unemployment and they still wasn't paying their rent.
I know. This is what I'm saying.
I mean,
it wasn't paying anything towards the rent or anything.
Exactly.
So then what, in cases like that, now, what do you say? You do have some money coming in. So at least if you offered $100, $150, that's a show that you really trying. But now you're going to take the money and start doing everything else. Because see, I was always taught the first thing you do when you get that check is to pay your rent. If you don't pay anything else, the first 2 bills I pay is my mortgage, because I don't want to be on the street. 2 is my light bill, because I'm scared of the dark. Them are my bills I pay. Yeah. So if I don't eat, if I don't talk to anyone, I don't cook, I don't care about all of those other bills. But those are the 2 main bills to me, because at least you can sit inside the house with nothing else going on and have some light and do what you have to do. But some people, they'll do other things before they pay their rent.
Yeah, I mean,
clothes, shopping, whatever, if not pay their rent.
Listen, I've been down a landlord tenant court numerous times. I became like an expert going down there, and it's sad to say, but the way the I see that they can reduce the tenants from going down to landlord court is to have it automatic deduction going to the landlord. That will alleviate some of these things. And if the tenant has a problem, rather it's repairs or they moved out or Social Security deposit hasn't been returned, then let them take the landlord to court. This will reduce some of the time and energy that's going on down there at landlord tenant court, because it's not a pretty sight and it's sad. People be down there with their children, they be down there, on their last leg, and it's just a sad situation. And I really hate to go there, and it's always the last resort, because I do have that personal relationship with my tenants and I do work with them, and that's greatly much appreciated. But they need to change that system.
Yeah. In my dream, we have a public option for housing, where it really, there's a place for anyone to go, especially if they're having a difficulty like that. And then I think the politics around evictions get a lot less tense, because eviction doesn't mean they're homeless, and eviction means they go into the fully funded public housing system. I do envision a world where we can rehabilitate our niche on public developments and expand social housing and expand the amount of housing that's publicly available for people. I would love to change the perception too. I know nice just gained the rap of concentrated poverty, but it's public, and I would love to return to a time where public housing is viewed the same way as the public library, the public park, where it's for everyone. It's for the people.
Mm-hmm. Senator Jabari, you're having a march against eviction on Thursday. Tell us about that march. Yeah,
it's in coalition with a bunch of groups. I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, so their housing working group is working on it. Also, people that are in tandem with us, the Crown Heights 10 Union, I'm pretty sure, is involved with that, and also the Housing Justice for All coalition. But it is, reiterating a lot of the demands that people are making, which is that we need to figure out another system than letting rent build a huge backlog of unpaid rent over the the course of this pandemic. We're advocating for canceling of the rent with a small landlord hardship fund. Also, just extending the moratorium on evictions. Senator Jabari has a bill that would extend the moratorium on evictions to 1 year after the pandemic ends, with the goal of making sure that people are not evicted as soon as the pandemic ends, but have a chance to get back into a job and build up enough funds to start paying their rent.
One more thing before, because we're going to soon be running out of time. One more thing. I know you was big on the census. Could you please tell people again how it is important it is to fill out the census so you will be able to get some money for our district?
Oh, please, everybody, you have no idea. It's so critical for the next 10 years. The census is how they determine to allocate funding for everything we love: our hospitals, our schools, yes, our roads, our yes, parks, our public social safety net, and it's allocated based on how people fill it out. So right now, Brooklyn's the worst borough in the city. Yeah. We have not hit 60% yet. Last I checked, we were 57, 58% completion rate, which means we'll get 57, 58% of the money we're supposed to get. I think we are at risk of losing a congressional seat from from how poorly we filled it out. So chances are, everyone watching, if you haven't filled it out yet, go do it right. Now, just open up the website in another tab as you're watching this. But if you already did it, post about it on social media, blast it, because chances are somebody that has not done it yet, and they really need to do it because it affects the next 10 years of funding. We don't get another chance till 2030.
Yeah. And they have to fully understand that when something happens and you don't have the facilities and the healthcare equipment and stuff that you need, or the right doctors, we talk about the same thing every time something happens. Is why the minority community does not have things that they supposed to have like the other communities, and people are not getting it. It's because you don't fill out the census so we can get some money. So if you're not filling out the census, how can you complain about anything? We want to stop people from complaining and do action. It's action now. So thank you so much for coming. I know you got to go do your lesson plan now for the kids.
I do.
Your children tomorrow.
We'll be ready for them.
And when January come, you take over, so we'll be ready. We'll be ready for you then. And anything that we can help you do, please let us know. We're also advocates for the community as well. Both of us. We're really involved in lots of stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you.
Pleasure.
As always, we thank our senator for joining us tonight. We thank you for watching. Thank you for that. As always, we'll see you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon.